I'm with Paul Hobbs in the George Menini Vineyard, and we're out in the Russian River Valley, and we're talking cover crop today because you got these beautifully grassy rows here, every other row. Let's talk a little bit about what cover crop does for you and why you use it.
Yeah, James, we use cover crop to help build soil. Also, because some of the cover crop has nitrogen fixing plants and so on, so that helps build and feed back some of the things we take from the soil during the growing season. That builds it back. That gets incorporated or planted in the winter months, or what we basically late fall after harvest, grows through the winter months and then gets reincorporated in the spring. It also tends to help mitigate problems like with nematodes, and so it actually keeps the vineyard soil quite healthy.
And then also you've had a super rainy winter out here, and the cover crop is playing an important role in that. What does that do there?
Yeah, the cover crop is wicking up a lot of the moisture in the soil, helping to dry down and giving some competition to the vines so that the vines don't get too vigorous to start. So in a year like this past very wet winter, as you mentioned, the cover crop is reducing vigor for us, and that's a good thing.
And you have to hedge that a little bit because you don't know when the rains will stop necessarily. So one of the reasons you do every other row.
That's correct. Yeah, we're doing every other row, and that's been a very successful, at least in these kind of soils. These are Gold Ridge, which are decomposed sandstone soils. And they're very light and they're highly erodible soils, but they can be dry farmed. But we find that in managing weeds and things of that nature and doing cover crop every other row, that gives about the right balance for the vine competition as well as moisture management.
Right, but getting to dry farmed is not easy. You can't just plant the vine and walk away from it. You have to get it established, right?
That's true.
And so your cover crop plays a role in that. Like you'll shift how much cover crop you're going to use here and whether or not you till it over time as your vineyard matures, right?
That's right. So this vineyard is still fairly young. It was planted in 2015. And as time goes on, we might move away from and go to a permanent cover. That's actually the long-term goal. And our long-term goal is basically just to mow this vineyard and chop up the prunings and feed that back into the soil. But those will be just lightly reincorporated into the soil. But yes, so this thing it's not a static situation. So as the vines are younger, there's one approach, and we actually have drip irrigation in here to establish. But now that hardly ever gets used.
Right.
Unless we're using a rootstock that's a very shallow rooter, like riparia gloire, for example.
And that's what you're using here, which you like for certain reasons.
We do.
Yeah.
We love riparia because it ends up concentrating and building a lot of flavor and layering of fruit. So it's one of my favorite rootstocks on these kind of soils.
But the rootstock is a variable in the equation of how you're going to farm, what cover crop you're going to use, everything. There's no one size fits all.
And I'm glad for that.